I'm with Bob Seay, who has a little bit of knowledge of the political nonsense that goes on when it comes to running a campaign. But let me introduce Bob. Bob, why don't you just say a few words and tell us what's happened in your past?
Well, first of all, thanks for doing this interview. I ran against Ken Buck in 2016. I've been active in CD4 politics for the past 6 years. I've been working on that. So I worked on the Vic Myers campaign, and I was a candidate, like I said, in the last election.
Excellent, excellent. How well did you do in the last election?
I got 32% of the vote.
Okay, so not too bad at all, really.
No. Considering the district is less than 23% Democrat, I felt good about getting 32% of the vote.
Okay, so that means then that quite a number of people did in fact decide not to vote Republican, decided to go Democrat.
Yeah, we picked up some votes that were either independent or Republican. It's hard to tell which.
Yes.
Here in Longmont, we carried 2/3 of the vote.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So what plans do you have for the future? Do you think you're going to run again? Because I know we talked a little bit off camera about this, and you talked about how difficult it is doing the financing, how difficult it is with your own personal life.
I would love to run again. I loved being a candidate, and I would love to get to a place where we can put some ideas in action. The problem with campaigning, you have two different issues. The fundraising issue for the campaign, which is about media buys and distribution of literature and all that. But then you also have to be able to live. You have to pay your bills from month to month. That's why so many retired people run for office, because they have kind of independent resources. If I could figure out a way to make all that work, I would run again in 18.
So what you're telling me is, being retired, you need to rub off all of your knowledge onto me so I can run.
Yes, very much so. If there are some, retired teachers, retired military personnel, first of all, they have the financial resources to do it. Secondly, they have the wisdom that we need in office. We need people who know how the world works. And I think that sometimes people get elected to office and they isolate themselves and they forget how the people back home live.
Excellent, thank you. And in closing, it's been about 110 days now of Trump. In 5 words, 3 of which we can bleep out later, what do you think so far?
5 words?
As many as you wish.
Absolute total disaster. I wake up every morning and I read his Twitter feed and I read this other stuff, and it's like, what disaster has happened today? And I think a lot of people share that sense of impending doom. We don't know from one day to the next. We don't know what this guy is going to pull. One of the themes of my campaign was, what will it take for Ken Buck to stand up to Donald Trump? And so far, Ken Buck has not stood up to Donald Trump. He hasn't challenged him on these issues. He has not held him to the same standards that he held President Obama. He has not stood up to Donald Trump. So we need to replace Ken.
I mean, everything that they used to say about Obama has gone by the wayside. They have forgotten everything that they said, every criticism that they made, and they're just allowing, and this is not just one person, this is basically all of the Republicans in Washington. They seem to have given him a big pass card.
Well, it's selective amnesia. They complained about the cost of Obama's vacations. Trump is on pace to spend more in his first year than Obama spent in his entire 8 years. They complained about executive orders. Trump has issued all kinds of executive orders, some of which aren't even constitutional. So every standard that they tried to apply to Obama, they completely give Trump a slate. And then the Supreme Court issue, they wouldn't even hold a hearing for Obama's nominee. They kept saying it's not appropriate to hold a hearing for a president in his last year of office. As far as I'm concerned, this is Trump's potentially last year in office. There are some very serious charges here. Why do they hold a hearing for a president's nominee who's not solid?
Even more importantly, why did they actually invoke the nuclear option?
Yeah, well, there goes the Senate.
There goes the Senate. Bob, thanks very much for joining us. I'll let you get back here and mingle and talk to people. I do hope that you're able to work it out and run again.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lynette, nice to see you down here. It's been a few weeks since we've been in the studio.
Yeah, nice to see you, Nigel.
So how's life been treating you?
It's good. I'm very busy. Trump has made us really activate, so I'm excited about that.
Most excellent. I asked Bob a few minutes ago what he thinks of the first 110 days. I would love to hear your opinion.
I have the same feeling that Bob is. It's just so sad. I wake up every morning and just just abject disgust. Every day is something new and something more horrible than the day before. So
It's truly unbelievable how things are going. Do you actually see it getting better or worse, especially with the fact that Bannon now seems to be on his way out?
I don't think it can get any better. I think it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. I hope he'll be gone by the end of the year.
So you literally think it's just going to move from one disaster to the next?
I think it's going to. He's not. I don't think anyone's happy with what he's doing. Maybe corporate sponsors of war, but other than that, I don't think anybody's happy with what he's doing. So I hope he's going to be gone.
Well, I think we can all hope that, but unfortunately, we don't know how things are going to go.
Yeah, we might just need to endure 4 years. That's the problem. I don't know.
The thing that's worrying me the most is, okay, if they do get rid of Trump, look who's going to replace him.
That's true. That's so true. A lot of people are saying it's better if he just stays in there because his replacement's worse.
Absolutely agree with that. Yeah. Absolutely. Lynette, I hear you're involved in a new organization. Would you like to give us a little overview of that?
I'll give you a little overview. I'm really excited about it. It's called Draft Bernie for a People's Party. And it's a movement to try to get Bernie, to get people to sign petitions to get Bernie to endorse having a third party. And so we've got, I think, 23 states now with leaders in them, and we're activating all over the nation, and I'm just really excited about it. I know it's going to take some time, and so we're reaching out to people from all parties, from mostly unaffiliated people, but also Democrats and Republicans are signing up. And I want Bernie to endorse us so that he'll bring his base and help us get some momentum.
So everyone organized in one place?
Yes. Yeah.
That would be perfect.
That'd be great.
We need to get you into the studio to talk about this, don't we?
I would love to. Yeah, that would be great.
Let's try and do that.
Okay.
Lynette,
thank you, Nigel.
lovely meeting you again.
Nice
You
to
take
meet you.
good care. Bye for now.
Thanks. Bye.
Sherry and Kathy, who are two of the organizers of the event down here in Longmont. So why don't you guys have a quick hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Perfect. Okay, so what made you actually decide to get this thing organized today?
Well, we had a group, Kathy and myself and Ira and some others, activists in Longmont, just a groundswell of people who were concerned when we went into Iraq and Afghanistan. So we were out here for every Saturday for about 10 years, demonstrating for peace. And then when Obama was in, we took a break, and with the recent events and administration, we decided to sort of resurrect the concept. So
Okay, good.
we're here every Saturday. It's called Longmont Leads with Love.
Right, Longmont Leads with Love. And today we're marching to the library because we want to have a town hall meeting with our representative, Congressman Ken Buck. So we'll be there. We're told the representative is too busy to talk with us, but we are planning to ask the questions just the same and to press him for the answers and to truly represent his constituents here in CD4.
Well, at the moment he's too busy agreeing with everything that Trump says.
Well, either Trump or the Koch brothers, who apparently pay his bills even though he denies it.
I had not heard that one. Interesting. So are you happy with the turnout?
Sure, we've had consistently a good 40 people. One week we had as many as 200 just before they voted on the repeal of ACA. And it continues to be sort of a groundswell, new faces every week, and just trying to spread the love and awaken in people that this is not who we are individually or collectively as a country, and sort of awakening love and compassion versus fear and hate.
Absolutely.
Most excellent. Right, I will let you both get back to...
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being on camera. Peter, thanks very much for joining us. So, I'm going to ask the same question I've asked. What do you think of the first 110 days of Trump?
Oh, I think it's been a rolling disaster, one disaster after another. And I have to say that as I address all of these issues in my mind, there are so many problems. I mean, you've got the utter, this family-based kleptocracy that's being installed, the business corruption, the Russia ties, the incompetent people in the cabinet, all of these issues. the only way for me to cope with this is to focus on one or two issues that I can express myself about and educate myself about. And for me, one of the biggest one of those is healthcare, no question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So apart from that, you think things are going fairly well?
Oh, just swimmingly if you're in the Trump family.
It is truly unbelievable what's been happening within American politics over the last 6 months. Have you ever seen anything like this before or come close to anything like this before?
No, nothing like this. Nothing like this.
You think it even eclipses what happened with Nixon?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, Nixon, after all, he passed environmental protection laws for all of the corruption and the things that were terrible about him, the anti-Semitism and the sort of inside gang that was trying to control things, and the way the FBI was infiltrating student protest groups and the American Indian movement. For all of that, he did understand politics, and he did know how to interact with foreign countries, and he knew how to keep up at least a facade of legitimate governance.
Yeah, the funny thing is that with Kissinger, the government of that time in America was looked on very favorably by the rest of the world.
Yes, I suspect some of them didn't know everything that was going on that I heard about, but yes, that's true.
Oh, I absolutely know. Even today, they don't hear everything that we hear daily on the news. It's quite staggering, really.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. It is.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, on the issue of health care, which, as I said, is what I'm most passionate about. I think there's a couple of basic questions that anybody that addresses this has to answer. The fact is that the United States pays more per person for health care with far worse outcomes than any other major industrialized country. And I would ask any politician that has anything to say about health care, start by telling me, is that okay? And if it's not, what are you going to do about it?
Couldn't agree more. I mean, one of the interesting facets is the fact that everyone over here seems to believe that America is number one in healthcare. It's not.
It's not.
It's running at about 15 or 16 at the moment.
Yes, that's true. And it depends upon what statistic you take, but in terms of life expectancy, infant mortality, depending upon the number of countries that you compare, we're way down the list. I've seen one where in infant mortality, we're 33rd on the list of about 45 countries. That's shocking. That's just shocking.
Actually, it's criminal.
It is. And as far as being top health care, if you're a millionaire, you can get the finest health care anywhere. But there's a lot of talk from particularly libertarians and right-wing Republicans about freedom. But if you can't afford insurance and if you can't afford the health care, you have no freedom.
Couldn't agree more.
There's
I
no
won't.
freedom of choice. No. If you can't afford it, you don't have a freedom of choice.
Oh, no freedom of choice at all. Thank you very much for doing this interview with us.
All right.
Thank you
very much. That concern me, but the issue that is most important to me is health care. And if you go into the emergency room, the first thing they do is to get your vitals, find out exactly what your signs and symptoms are before they begin treatment. And I think anybody who looks at health care should take the same approach. They should look at what the facts are about American health care, what's going on, and then decide what to do about it. And the two facts that I see that are most salient are the fact that Americans pay more for health care for much worse outcome compared to any industrialized country in the world. And I can give you statistics. I don't want to take people's time by giving you the numbers and so forth, but I think anybody that deals with health care has to start by answering the question, is that okay? And if that's not okay, how do you address that basic issue? Thank you.
Mr. Buck.
Thank you. No, it's not okay. And I have to tell you something. This is an incredibly complicated issue, and it's not an issue that I had a lot of experience with before I got to Washington, D.C. I was a prosecutor. I can tell you what Miranda means, and I can tell you what the various cases are interpreting Miranda. But this is an interesting issue to me. I have spent probably a dozen meetings now with people who have come to a microphone and told me about their personal health care stories. Some of it I knew, I knew a lot about pre-existing conditions from having talked to people on the campaign trail and whatnot. Some of it I didn't know. I did not realize the severity of lifetime caps on individuals. And I've learned a lot from listening to people around the 4th Congressional District. I wish I had a very simple answer for you. I wish I could just wave a wand and say, here is a solution. I don't believe in universal health care. I don't believe in... That's okay. I believe that the best possible solution for us is to try to introduce as many market factors as we can into the healthcare system.
Here, let me take the mic. Just want to let people know we are not going to censor anybody's speech today. However, in the interest of civility, if you could consider showing thumbs up or thumbs down, twinkle hands. However, I will say, Mr. Buck, in the interest of this being an open town hall, we have the general public here, and there may be people who feel so strongly that they need to voice from the crowd. Okay. Is that okay, everybody? Ground rules? Great, thank you.
So I don't know if there are safe spaces at CU, but I may need a safe space if people get really loud here. But I'm telling you what my thoughts are. I think we absolutely have to have a healthcare system in this country that protects people with pre-existing conditions. Makes absolutely no sense not to do that. I think we need to relook at lifetime caps based on pre-existing conditions, based on other factors. I think there are a lot of things that we need to do. Now, the health care bill that has come under scrutiny and criticism in the last few weeks retains 1,800 pages of Obamacare. It is not a repeal of Obamacare. It is an amendment of Obamacare. I think that even Nancy Pelosi testified in front of the committee I'm on, Rules Committee, and she said very clearly, do not repeal Obamacare, work with us on amending it. So we have started amending the Affordable Care Act, and we will do our very best to cover people. And just like I think the Democrats wanted in 2009, if their first plan doesn't work, we will do our very best to continue to modify it, use regulations from HHS and other things to get this right. But nobody in the Congress that I know of on either side has a heart to have a bad healthcare system in this country.
Just one word. I would ask you to look at I would ask you as you look at models around the world that are successful to look at Germany, where they have a health insurance industry-based healthcare system that's far more efficient than ours. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
In the last 2 interactions that you've had that I know of, which were the telephone town hall and the very, very far east closed individual meeting, the same question was asked twice. And it was why the current administration has so much fear-mongering, honestly, about foreign terrorists. They want to exclude people who have the right to come into our country from coming into our country, and yet there's not even anything said about white supremacists committing acts of terror inside the United States. And I'm not even going to ask you that question. The question I'm going to ask you is, why did you duck that question twice, sir?
What's this mean, by the way?
Without interrupting. That's the spirit.
That's spirit. Okay, good. I got to tell you, this is a new culture for me, and I appreciate being here. I'm learning things. And the first thing I want to say is, I appreciate everyone that's here. The problem we have in this country is people are not engaged in our political system. Agree with me, disagree with me, engage. Go beat me in November of 2018 if you don't like what I have to say, but engage. And I am so frustrated that in 2009, Republicans were all engaged because they were mad, and now they have gone and they are sleeping. And you guys were sleeping in 2009, and now you are awake and you are causing problems. So great. We need more problem causers in this country. So you agree?
I'm agreeing.
Yes, good. So let's talk about I remember one question on a telephone town hall. I don't remember two. And the question that I remember is having to do with right-wing fascist white supremacists. And the reason I didn't answer it is because you could go into a full political theory course on that question. It makes absolutely no sense to me. If you are a fascist, it means that you are associated with the Nazis, and fascism is a national, okay, fascism to me is a national socialist liberal problem. Not, absolutely liberal, and not a right-wing issue. I am to the right of center, folks. I believe in a liberal society. I believe in a society where we can hold meetings like this without the government interfering. I believe.
If I can follow up on her question as MC,
Sure.
What I believe is being asked is that there's been a considerable attention focused on foreign terrorists, not attention focused on U.S. domestic white supremacist terrorists. And there have certainly been cases going back to the Oklahoma bombing where that sort of person has acted in a terrorist way. Did I paraphrase that correctly?
Yes.
Would you be willing to answer that question?
Sure. So that wasn't the question that was asked. The question that was asked was, why did I duck the question that you asked? And I'm trying to explain why I didn't answer the question that was asked on the telephone town hall. Now I'll be glad to answer that question. Timothy McVeigh got the death penalty, folks. You know, you talk about white supremacists. Timothy McVeigh got the death penalty. His co-conspirator in that horrible crime is going to get life in prison. I'm absolutely in favor of the death penalty, by the way. No, I know. There's some of you that are, maybe some of you that aren't. Let's go thumbs down on that one. I think the death penalty is really appropriate for someone that takes a truck filled with explosives and goes and kills a bunch of innocent people whose only crime that they were committing is trying to serve us the best they could in government. So I am absolutely in favor. I'm absolutely in favor of strengthening the FBI's domestic terrorism investigation abilities. I'm absolutely in favor of working with state and local governments. I was a prosecutor. Any crime should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And when we get to international terrorism, I feel just as strongly. We have to make sure that we don't have international terrorists coming here. But absolutely, if there are white supremacists, if there are folks in Black Lives Matters that want to kill a police officer, we need to do everything we can to make sure that those things don't happen.
Sir,
they want to kill a police officer? What is the logic? Where is the data that says that this organization wants to kill? That is nonsense. You should not be trying to set up an organization of people and trying to make it as though one member of that organization, one event defines the organization.
Okay. So let me be clear. Police officers should not be murdered based on any ideology. Agreed. No one. No way.
That's not what the complaint was about.
That's not what?
That's not what the objection was about. The objection was about your characterization of Black Lives Matter as though it were a criminal organization. Black Lives Matter and murder in the same sentence. That gives the impression that the two are linked.
And what impression did I get when you say right wing, or the other language that you used?
Where did I say right wing?
The question on the telephone town hall involved right-wing white supremacists. Now, if you're going to say white supremacists, Black Lives Matter is black supremacy. So let me tell you something. I am absolutely ashamed that Congress does not do anything when it comes to foreign intervention. It is an absolute disaster. And let me tell you why. It's a tough vote. You vote to give a president authority to bomb, and a pilot is shot down and tortured on American TV, that vote is going to come back to haunt you. That's our job, to make tough votes. And we should absolutely, now, I think that a president has the authority under the War Powers Act passed by Congress to act in an emergency situation. The president then or a member of the administration should come before Congress, explain the action, and there should be a use of force legislation passed to define very tightly what that president should do. I believe President Obama was wrong when he put ground troops in Syria. I don't believe that the use of force that was authorized for Iraq by Congress gave him that authority. And I think that President Trump needs to come before Congress and make sure that he is getting any type of use of force. We can't anticipate that this vicious dictator is going to do something really bad again. We can anticipate that. And so we need... You think he saw the light? You think he saw the light?
No, they think Trump is the vicious dictator. They think Trump is the vicious dictator.
So I was talking about the Syrian vicious dictator. But I think that the administration needs to come before Congress, and we need to tightly define what the authority is.
Right. And Bob, you had a point on this?
I'm not sure what my role is here, so I'm kind of making this
Co-host, yeah.
The closest thing I came to running a negative ad in my campaign, the closest I came, was an ad that said, what will it take for Ken Buck to stand up to Donald Trump? And I based it on the fact that you correctly called him a fraud earlier in the campaign. And then once he won the nomination, you endorsed him. Now we're seeing behavior which some of us from a psychological background are frankly concerned about. What will it take for Congress to stand up and say, there is a problem here? We spent millions of dollars and untold months investigating an email scandal that was nothing. And now we have a man in the White House who some would argue has a tenuous grasp on reality. Yes. What will it take? At what point will Congress step in and say, wait a minute, this is not right? There's a double standard between Trump and Obama, clearly. At what point will the House of Representatives stand up and say we need to check our party's president? Yeah.
So let me answer that. As soon as, well, and let me back up a second to put this in context. I did not seek the impeachment of President Obama. I did not seek the impeachment of the IRS commissioner. I was opposed to that impeachment. There were some in my party that thought that would happen. I stated very clearly, only when a high crime or misdemeanor occurs should Congress act. Other than that, it is a political issue for the voters to decide at the next election. That's what it will take for me to act with President Trump. If I believe that he has committed a high crime or misdemeanor, I will act.
The assault on our oxygen breathing life.
So there are a couple of things I need to clarify. What has Donald Trump done that is an assault on science? And specifically, what I want to know is what grants have been cut to the University of Colorado, to Colorado State University, to others that are affecting that inquiry?
They have not been cut yet because the new tragic budget has not passed yet, but it's already in line to cut the research science and especially to cut the enforcement mechanisms of the EPA to stop the pollution. And one quick thing, the very first law that President Trump signed in his office, the very first law that the president signed back in January was to poison the rivers in West Virginia and Kentucky. Get rid of protection of the rivers. What do you see to do about that? And yes, the defunding is already in the works and it must be stopped. Yes.
So I love the premise of the question, and I love the language. President Trump signed a bill to poison rivers.
Yes! 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 Yes!
He didn't just...
into the water.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm.
You voted for it.
Yes.
Yes, you voted for it. You voted for it.
Drink that water, Ken Buck.
You know what? I'll go swimming in that poison river. How's that sound? No, I'll go swimming in that river. That's just absolute nonsense. I have no idea where you guys get your facts from. That is absolute nonsense. He did not poison any river. So, folks, I have bad news for you. We have $20 trillion of debt. Is this news? We have $100 trillion of unfunded liabilities. There are all kinds of programs that are going to get cut. And you know what? I am absolutely in favor of making sure that our military becomes a lot more efficient, especially in its procurement process, than it is right now. But we are going to be cutting programs in this Congress.
Raise some money.
I didn't hear the answer to the question about climate change. What I understand my brother Strider asking was, what are you, Representative Buck, going to do about climate change?
I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do about climate change. I am not going to vote for more money for more studies for climate change. Understand that?
So there's no reason for more studies.
Oh, okay.
Money was not the question. The question was broadly, what are you going to do about climate change as our representative?
You're our representative. Remember?
I do remember that.
Remember?
So I'm not. If you're asking me what am I doing personally about it,
Are there policies you're supporting? Are there changes in laws about solar? What are you going to do as our representative about climate change?
I am not going to support more funding for studies. We've just heard that the science is settled.
Climate change is happening.
We had to change the.
On the settled science.
That's right. So I am not going to vote for more funding for studying climate change, and I am not going to vote to impose more restrictions on our economy while other countries continue to pollute the atmosphere and we lose jobs here at home.
I'm not sure if I'm a candidate or not at this point. Here's the reality of running for elections in this country, and this is why we need publicly funded campaigns. The problem is twofold. One is the expense of running for office. There is an entire industry that exists on putting political candidates through office. And the amount of money that you have to collect to make that work is astronomical. Congressman Buck outraised me by a factor of 10. He had $750,000, I had $75,000 at the end when we all tallied it up. Now, the other problem with that is personal living expenses. And I am not here to tell a sob story because I made my decisions and I live with my choices. But my personal experiment with democracy cost me about $25,000 in lost wages and living expenses while I was campaigning. I was very fortunate. My school gave me an unpaid leave of absence. What that meant was my income dropped by about 1/3 during the time of the campaign. I'm not here to ask for money. What I'm telling you is that until we have publicly funded campaign, we are going to continue to elect people who are financially independent. And people who have never had to make the choice between buying groceries or buying medication don't know what that's like to live like that. They don't know what it's like to work 2 jobs and still qualify for Medicaid. Talk about able-bodied people getting on Medicaid. We got able-bodied people working 2 gigs that don't make enough money to even get past that threshold. So we need to change something about that. Until we do, we're going to continue to have the same sort of people elected to office.
Both my
Our
children.
kids went to school together.
Yeah.
That's what I know. I'm sorry.
Both my children received public education from the time they were in kindergarten to the time they graduated from college. My son went to West Point. My daughter went to Clemson, which is a public school in South Carolina. And actually had a number of conservative professors. I was very pleased that she got that education in college. But let me tell you something. The Department of Education was started in the 1970s, and American education has been going downhill ever since. The idea that we have a federal bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. dictating curriculum for students in Longmont is beyond me. The idea that people in Washington, D.C. determine what type of nutrition you need to serve in your school lunch program is beyond me. I have no clue why anybody would think that a national education system is good. We have great school board members in St. Vrain. We have great principals, great administrators, and as we do in District 6 in Greeley. And I got to tell you, the superintendents, all that I know, have PhDs. And yet we let a bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. overrule them on very basic issues. Doesn't make sense. If we're going to treat this the right way, in my view, we block grant money to the states and we let people like you make the decision on how that money is spent, not somebody in Washington, D.C. Folks, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for caring enough on a Easter weekend, Saturday afternoon with beautiful weather to come together and to care enough about your country to make it better. I appreciate your comments. I hope you appreciated mine. Pause.
Did you hear our anger?
But
did you hear our anger?
I heard your anger a number of times. So back off. I heard your anger. I heard your anger, and I did my best to remain calm and answer questions as rationally as I possibly could. So thank you very much for being here. God bless you.
Okay, folks.